Hey, what's going on everyone? This is JoeYoursTruly back with another video, and today we're going to do a quick overview guide on Zarus. And this will be kind of a good opportunity for me to give you guys my input on Zarus and how I think he's going to be best play or feel as an off-lane kind of main character. So for those who do not know, the last two heroes like Greystone and Trimblast, I was able to do like a kind of quick overview based on like kind of like the kit they revealed to us in the patch notes, because this just dropped and we do see in depth of all his abilities, his scalings, all that great stuff. I'm assuming you guys have always seen the overview video of like the actual gameplay and ability look, so I won't be really kind of going back to this videos as much. I just kind of assume that you guys have already seen it, but if you have not, definitely pause the video, go watch this overview video. I'll probably just leave a link to this in my description down below. But yeah, big thing is we're gonna be trying to focus on theory crafting, like the kind of builds, the kind of best items to go along with him, and just kind of give you guys my overall thoughts on how I think Lizard or Zarus is gonna be played right here. But also there's some really kind of cool stuff, like this adding some item reworks, particularly the assassin items, and it's gonna really shake up the build path for assassins and maybe other heroes as well. But yeah, for let's just kind of jump straight into it. This is kind of very cool. I just love this model so much. Like, he is just so badass, not gonna lie. So it's just very detailed, like so many details this model had. I'm just in love with this character right here. And so yeah, definitely this is actually the video link, so if you do click on this, it will bring up to that. So kind of a nifty video link right there. But yeah, let's just jump straight into his ability. So we guys already know the gist of it, but now we got the numbers. So Gladiator is his passive, so upon entering combat, he gains static Gladiator when dealing damage with basic attacks or abilities to enemy heroes or monsters, stacking up to 8 times. Each stack grants 1% increased physical power, so this means that at 8 stacks, you're going to get 8% increased physical power, which doesn't sound a whole lot, but that's some free stats you're getting. That means that everything is hurting, your basic attacks is hurting more, and your abilities as well. And after 5 seconds leaving combat, you restore HP based on stats consumed. And so the important thing to note is that this actually scales based on your level. So at level 1, you're only gonna get, what is it, like sorry, my math is failing me right now. That's okay, so that's 4% of your maximum HP back if you get 8 stacks of Gladiator. But as you level up like thresholds like 1, 6, 11, 16, this increases more and more. So you get to level 16, and that's 3% per stack. That's like 24% of your maximum HP you are healing back. So that's actually pretty substantial, like, because the big thing is when you do those big objective fights or you get a team wipe, a lot of times it can be so hard to do objectives, like you kind of oof on health, it's kind of hard to do point without dying wipe. But this is gonna be great. So you get out a skirmish, you get a bunch of HP back, so you can look to just re-engage again or just go to objective and you'll be kind of healthy. So just be a great way for Zarus to kind of sustain throughout the game. And it does, the big thing is it says heroes are monsters, so this will work on jungle minions. So that means that it can be a very good sustain option in the jungle. So while you're kind of clearing camps, as you're walking around, you're going to be restoring HP. So it can be really helpful, but for better sustain in the jungle, which is really great if you want to flex Zarus in the jungle. But in the offlane in particular, this is going to be probably what you want to be playing around with, because it seems like with Zarus kit as a whole, especially with his RMB speed of Neo, he's going to be doing a lot of poking. And so what you want to be trying to do is you want to try and stay in quote-unquote combat throughout like your training path. So imagine you have this wave that's crashing to each other, you try to look for RMB poke, that's 1 stack, you probably look for more spear jabs, that's more stacks. So like the big thing is you're not trying to stack up immediately, you're trying to like find opportunities within that 5 seconds to try to keep stacking up, because when you do, the more stacks you have, the harder you will hit and the more HP you restore when it consumes, right? So always like the big thing, what makes Zarus really good in the offlane is the fact it's just an all-in-one passive. You get the bonus damage to do more damage in trading, but you have that sustain in lane. So this is what makes him very well suited for the offlane. This is just a very cool, unique passive to just play around with. So it's nothing too new. It's just saying it's just the name of the basic attack right there, and so it gives you the number. This is kind of like typical numbers I would say for a basic attacker. So his all attacks would definitely hurt 100%. And it does cleave, by the way, which for a spear jab, you would think it only hits one target, but technically it would cleave, quote unquote, but only 10%. So it's kind of it's just a good note to take consideration right there. So for Barricade, his Q, that's his shield, essentially. I don't know if I can, yeah, I bring it up right here. So that's when he brings up the shield, he takes reduced damage while it's up, and when he swings it, he actually stuns people, right? And the kind of cool thing is we actually see the numbers on this because it does damage as we saw in the video, but we don't know how much damage. And the big thing to know is that it will increase up to these numbers if you let it charge up all the way. So you can of course use your Q really quickly for the quick damage and for like the stun, but there's some incentive to hold it out in front of you because look at this. At level 1 it's 60% damage reduction, which is already high, and once you max this out it's 80% damage reduction. That is pretty insane, not gonna lie. That means that you can really block a lot of burst damage if you are using it correctly. Like imagine Trimblast's ultimate that a lot of people complain about doing a lot of damage. Now when Trimblast's ulting you, just bring up your Q and all of a sudden you're taking 80% reduced damage from that. That's just a huge counter to some of the very hard hitting ultimates in this game. And so this just makes them a menace when you're able to time this Q right. So this is probably where a lot of the dynamics of Zarus is going to come to play. It's how you use your Q. You want to use your Q to maybe initiate fights and get that nice stun off so you can keep laying on them, but maybe it's worthwhile to hold on to it. Like say you jump on the Twin Blast, expecting him to ult you, that's when you bring out your Q immediately to block out a lot of damage. Or let's say a Q ultimate does a lot of damage, and I think if you're facing her, like you should block that damage and you use the stun alpha. So he's sort of like just a mess at ADC because, of course, you have the Coliseum, a lot of people in, but also just the fact that you have a passive, that an ability that essentially blocks damage, and that is a huge defensive tool that can be offensive as well. Because look at this, 135 damage max rank with 100% bonus physical power that can increase up to 270 with 200% bonus physical power, and he's getting bonus physical power from his passive and any bonus physical power from his Coliseum when he kills people, right? So it's kind of like his Q will hurt a lot. So this is actually an ability that in my eyes is worthwhile upgrading second. Like your main ability should be his RMB, but after RMB his Q should be max second because it does a lot of damage with scaling numbers. Alright, next up is going to be Invade. That's kind of like his dashing mechanic right there. So this one is a pretty low cost, so like Barricade has a hefty cost at 80, so you can't spam it willy-nilly, but his Invade is something you could probably use a lot more often. Like for every one use of Barricade, you could Invade twice, right? And so the cooldown on this is pretty long at the beginning, it gets to 12 seconds at max rank. And so I guess that's the big thing with Invade. That's just a mobility, right? You use it, you gain movement speed for 1.5 seconds, 50% movement speed, and 20 at bonus attack speed. So this is actually a pretty aggressive mobility option. I think at first glance it seems like it's used to close the distance or to run away. But if you use this properly in the trading powers in the off lane, you can use it to really kind of get some increased damage because with that 20% attack speed, you're hitting harder, you're hitting faster, so you're doing more damage, but you're also stacking your Gladiator passive even faster. So your E is like it's a mobile option, but it's a pretty aggressive one at that. Like think of Sandfog on B, he just dashes at you, right? Nothing much is gained after that. But this one's like you dash at someone and you can have these bonus effects apply, so it just works out really well. So I imagine like this is going to be a crucial part of your trading pound as well, because his E comes out really fast right here. I'm not sure where it's in the video, but essentially like when you dash, it's like instant, right? You see how fast that comes out right there. So I imagine you can use this ability, the juke ability. So imagine a Grux trying to uppercut you or a Crunch trying to uppercut you. If you can time it right, you can probably dash right behind them and start laying it down on them. So his E just has so much versatility. This is like the big thing about Zarus' kit that's getting me really hyped. It's the fact that his kit has a lot of different intricate things you can do with it. It's not as straightforward at first glance. There's a lot of stuff you can do. You can juke abilities with the E. It's a very good aggressive move. It's a good way to create distance or fall back. Qs, of course, is a very great defensive tool, but when you're approaching someone, you can like bring the Q up, and when you walk up to him, then you do the smack, right? So his Q is a defensive or offensive tool, his E is a defensive but also offensive move. So there's so much really cool stuff you can do with his kit that I'm really impressed with. Next up is his bread and butter, Speed of New. That's when you essentially what do you call, you do your RMB kind of thing. So like it has two different components. One is a short range jab. The other one is you hold down the RMB click. That's when you can kind of throw it as a javelin kind of throw, right? So like it should show right here on the fame mount that there's a quick thrust. So this again plays into how flexible his kit is. He has two different modes with RMB. One is the quick jab, and the other one is the channel, right? So releasing within 0.3 seconds will thrust the spear forward. So that's when you just do the tap and you just thrust the spear forward. When you hold down the ability, that's when you channel and throw the spear, right? And so it looks like the damage is the same no matter if it's a thrust or a range. The big difference is if you do the range throw, then you get the normal 10-second cooldown. But if you do the quick thrust, it's 5 seconds. I do really like that dynamic a lot because his spear is his main way of trading in the off lane, I would say. Costs of 30, and it does seem like the most consistent source of damage, right? And so it's good that this is on a lower cooldown, I would say, because like a Crunch Q, Reworks RMB are the main trading ability. So it seems like for Lizard, it's going to be the Speed of Neo as his main trading tool. And even though it seems like it's a long cooldown on first glance, that's only if you're throwing the spear. You should instead like be using it to mostly tap and do a quick thrust. And the cool implication with this ability, of course, is the range component. You can finish off people running away from you, but also you can use it to help better manage for the wave. Like imagine someone is trying to freeze the wave at the torrent and you can't walk up to it. Well, you can just use your range flow and they'll be able to like clear the wave from a distance. So like kind of like a Shimby Q, allowing her like a lot of access to the wave. The same thing with the Speed of New when you throw it. So you just have a lot of cool implication with this ability you can do within the laning phase. Last but not least is this very flashy ultimate, which is Coliseum, and that's the one he just like traps people in and introduces that 1v1 fight that we all love to see. I love when people can't run away from me and I can just kind of lay down the hood on them, right? So kind of love this as an engage tool to really kind of put on the hood and just finish off people. And the big thing to note is that you will gain bonus physical power if you kill the target within the Coliseum, which is huge because this just plays into his kit. Like he gains bonus physical power when he gets back to Gladiator, and then so you gain permanent physical power if you kill people with Coliseum, goes into that. And big thing is it doubles the passive from Gladiator. That's a big deal because 8% doesn't sound a lot. It doesn't give it is a considerable amount, but it's not like a big oomph of damage, right? But this one doubles it, so it goes from 8% to 16% of increased physical power. So that's kind of like if I have 200 physical power, that's 216 physical power, right? And that's a pretty noticeable kind of increase of power you can get from that, right? And that's not even accounting for the fact that he can get bonus physical power when he kills people. So I imagine late game, when you have full build, you could probably get something closer to, let's say, 300 physical power, 350, and that turns into like a 16, 26, 30 bonus physical power when you have 8 stacks and 5 people in Coliseum. That's almost close to like a full item, which is a big deal and makes him like really kind of hurt a lot more. Another thing to note is the cooldown on this. It's actually shorter than I think people realize. At max weight, it's 80 seconds. That means that in between all these big fights, you can probably keep getting this Coliseum out. Because like the big thing with Mario, for example, before it was buff, is that her ultimate was on a long cooldown. So it's kind of hard to use her ultimate quite often, but it got reduced to the point where you can use it quite actively. This one's the same thing. It doesn't seem like it's a super long cooldown. It's not like it's not the shortest, but it's not as long as I think people think it would be. So you're going to be able to use this ultimate quite a lot in these kind of mid to late game team fights. So this is something like you have to take into consideration when he's fighting you, that he probably will have this ultimate up a lot. So there's no like you have one fight and the next fight doesn't have it. It seems like in between his fights, he's going to be able to get it back up. But yeah, I just love the applications. Love the 1v1 dueling potential you have with this ultimate way. So I'm just very stoked for him. So I think what I'm gonna do is, before I talk about the rest of his patch notes, I am gonna do some little theory crafting since we just finished talking about Lizard's kit. Just real quick, really sexy skin, not gonna lie, really cool skin. I really can't wait to see it in action. Of course, you see the notable difference. Red skin, he has the helmet, his shield looks a little different, but I imagine there might be some in-game differences as well that we don't know until we actually see it in action. But I mean, all that aside, very beautiful skin. I love it. I'm definitely gonna pick up for myself, 100%. But yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump really quickly to some theory crafting on him because we know his kit, we saw his kit in action. Let's do some theory crafting of some of the builds you can run on him. So the kind of like the build that I think a lot of people are gonna be running on him is gonna be the Mutilator kind of route right here. Actually, let me see if I can pull up the creating the actual kits. Sorry, it's been a while since I used Omega.City, so I'm trying to figure out how we can create a build. There we go. So let's imagine this is Zarus right here, right? So the first build that they seem to be recommending and what I'm still doing is essentially this Mutilator route. So it was like, I think it was Mutilator, Augmentation, trying to see like late game what it was. So it was Mutilator, Augmentation, and Salvation. And with what's it called? Icicle Talents, if I can find it. There we go. So this seems like to be the first build that pushing on him is that this is very typical Bruiser build. It's actually very similar, almost identical to the way you build Crunch, because the thing with Crunch is he's a very ability focused hero, so any items that can really amplify his base ability damage is what makes it really strong, right? So Mutilator is a perfect fit for Crunch because whenever you damage enemy heroes with abilities, you pretty much do maximum HP damage. So right now it's 1% and it doubles non DOT builders. So that means that every time I heal someone with Crunch, that's 2% I'm doing additional maximum health damage. So it works really well on healers that use abilities a lot like Crunch. And it seems like they're doing the same thing with Zarus as well. That Zarus seems to be a kind of like someone that relies on his abilities a lot. Like he can hurt you in his basic attacks, but not on the same caliber, I would say, as a Reworks, where like you get a bunch of steroids on like your basic attacks and stuff to swing really hard. Kind of seems like Zarus is a little bit more reliant on his abilities because his Q hurts a lot, his RMB hurts a lot. He even does quite a bit of damage on his ultimate as well, but so it seems like he's very more ability focused, and that means that something like Mutilator, it seems to work really great on him because it means that every time I stab someone with my spear Mutilator, I'm proccing the maximum health damage, so I'm doing 2% bonus damage on my melee, and if I do decide to go in and attack, I get 20% basic attack speed. I'll hit people harder, and I do. So it seems like melee seems like a great fit, great offensive tool. Army Fam seems to be really nice as well for sustain. So you have the passive to work on sustain and the off lane for Lizard, but then you also get the Army Fam from this as well. Augmentation seems like a no-brainer because the basic combo is auto attack, RMB with your spear thrust and auto attack again, and then that's when you get the amplified true strike passive on top of that. And so when you cast your ultimate, you gain 20% movement speed as well. So it'd be quite nice to, if someone is trying to run around stickers in your Coliseum, you can stick to them a little bit better with your overclock passive augmentation. Of course, Icicle Talents is probably a must pick on Zarus because you gain increased physical power. So you gain increased physical power from your passive, from your Coliseum, and then you can stack another increased physical power on top of that, and the move speed and slow. So Icicle Talents just seems to be made for him. Seems very kind of cool item on him. And Salvation is just another static for your physical power, but also this is where you get survivability. So it kind of seems like this is a very typical Bruiser build that you want to give a bunch of physical power, but also some survivability. So you get 300 HP, 100 HP right there, and 500 HP from Salvation. So last two items probably just flex options depending on who you're against. So let's say I'm against like a Reworks, for example. Like I'm scared of the Reworks, so probably I'll build like Tainted Guard so I can kind of get some of that armor in there and survivability. And let's say another item I can probably do, you can probably go more pure tank as last two items. Maybe this does enough damage, I'm not sure. Or you can probably just go more like pure physical power. So let's say you get like a Lexi in there, so whenever you drop below HP, you get that cleanse, so it could be very nice tech right there. Tainted Blade seems like it could be really good as him as well. You get HP, physical power, and you get the blind ball, so whenever you deal damage to your abilities, that's when you can take 10% more damage, so essentially it's really incredibly well on him. But yeah, it's just gonna be a simple kind of mix and match of different items you can run on him. Probably TikTok Mallet can be really fun. Dracono can be really good. More physical power is always really good. Healing is also really nice as well. Maybe Basilisk too can work in there. Maybe Venom too. We don't know. There's a lot of options you can probably go with these last two items. I would say the core build is these three items based on kind of like the video they show us right there, and last two items can just flex whatever. So the second build I'll kind of showcase real quick is probably like a more tanky build, because big thing with Zarus is you kind of have some incentive to ult multiple people, right? But if you don't have enough durability, people can probably just bust you down instantly, right? So this is gonna be more of a tank engager kind of build that I'm kind of having back in my head. That is, we go standby as mental. Where is it at? Trying to figure out it. Overlords. Then second item, I try to remember top of my head, augmentation, and then like salvation. So you guys can kind of see what I'm going here. This is like an HP scaling tank build, because Overlord you gain bonus physical power based on your bonus health, and Zarus seems to be someone that really scales well the more physical power you can gain stack on him. So because of the fact that the bonus physical power you get from Gladiator passive is based on the percent of your physical power, not like a finite number. So the more physical power you can stack on, the better you seem to benefit. So this is where you can just gain a bunch of free physical statistics from Overlord, and then you can build straight into augmentation, so you get more HP, more physical power, and just a really good passive. And of course, salvation is another great option. Huge statistics. You kind of see what I'm doing. I'm trying to stack as much HP as I can, and all that feeds into the Overlord passive that gives me more and more physical power. The Overlord passive is also pretty nice too for wave clear, so it helps me kind of clear the wave faster with the cleave right there. And so last two items is probably just gonna be more pure tank. Like I think Raymond may be a little disgusting on him. So like in this kind of build path, you can get 600, so you get 600, 500s, and bunch of HP from here, all feeding into Overlord. And last item can probably be whatever you want. Probably can't go wrong with, like, let's say Basilisk, so you can more likely shred through tanks. You can probably go the Mutilator as the last item right there. So maybe like Tainted Blade. So you can kind of see this is like a more tanky build I have in mind on Lizard that I think can work pretty good, I would say. So this is kind of like my second build that I'm kind of theorycrafting, because this is not too different. Like all these different builds I'm recommending to you are all builds I know works great. Like for example, this build is almost identical to Chimera minus like augmentation. You probably swap that with Basilisk instead, right? And so because I'm just using builds that we already know works on these Bruisers and slapping them on Lizard and just fine tuning it. Because I think in my head this seems very, very solid if you want to build Lizard as more tanky boy. One last build I kind of recommend is maybe I'm kind of thinking like with how much damage he seems to do on his abilities, let's maybe consider wishing to build him more assassin-like. So thinking like Fame Mal, for example. Fame Mal core build pass is pretty much you do like a Mutilator and Mindrazor, right? And that's kind of like his core build pass for Offlane. You get the sustain and great damage from Mutilator, but then you get a bunch of physical static from Mindrazor, but being able to really clear waves really fast because the cleave will work on ability. So when Fame Out eats the wave, he's also proccing this really well. So in my head, I think this can also work with Lizard as well, because we already know Mutilator works really great because they recommend that item on him. Imagine we can take this item but make it more like an assassin. So this pretty much is gonna be like a copy paste of a Fame Mal build, because Fame Mal pretty much like this is his core like items. You go like with Stalker or like all this if you're playing spicy. I'll probably be doing all this just because it's another source of permanent physical power. I can get bonus physical power from all this and all this from the ultimate. So there's some very kind of funny synergy you can do right there. After that, it's going to be just kind of like typical assassin items. And by the way, it's kind of hard to theorycraft at that moment, because the one thing that I was going to go to is the fact that there were reworking assassin items right here. So like for example, 3 assassin item rework, Deathstalker, Dread, and Nightfall. And so like Deathstalker's game rework, Dread's game rework, and Nightfall's game rework. So it's kind of hard to theory craft the assassin build on him just because we got 3 new assassin items into the equation that we haven't had a chance to get our hands on. But at the very least, I'll kind of just try my best to give you guys some assassin item recommendations. I kind of figure if we're going the assassin route, Tainted Blade can't go wrong with that third. Maybe do something a little fun with Pain Reaper to get more movement speed and all that great stuff. Last item probably be something like, why not Absolution? So anti-CC, you when you get CC, you get that damage mitigation and you get the bonus movement speed. So like I have the E for movement speed, I have Pain Reaper for movement speed. If I get this, I get movement speed on top of that, right? But yeah, aside of that, maybe it's consideration Inferno, maybe that I think that can probably scale really well on him for the most part. I really want to try to say Deathstalker Dread, but these items are gonna be reworked because I think Deathstalker is more like an attack speed kind of rework item that seems to scale based on physical penetration. So I think maybe on the fly you can probably do Tainted Blade third for anti-fly, maybe Deathstalker 4s, so you can all attack faster. That may actually work really great for Mutilator. And last item can be just a Web of Flex item, so most of our ability can be Salvation if you want to be funny and execute people like Vanquisher, right? Assassin 1 is the one I'm not too quite sure how the best build. Lizard, if you want to do the Assassin Lizard, just because we have these 3 new Assassin item reworks on the table, so I had to play one with those item reworks before I can kind of theory craft the proper way. But this is just my idea, and it's more like for fun anyways. They give you guys some different build ideas, so because I'm probably going to cover all of this. I'm probably going to be doing the normal build, the tank build, and the assassin build in the offlane. And so this is just my way of giving you guys my kind of theory crafted ideas ahead of time. So if you guys want to do the assassin build day 1, you don't have to wait for me to do that build showcase. You can take notes from this and take it for a spin for yourselves. But yeah, that's all about for Lizard. Right now, on the last part of the video, I just want to quickly go over some of the changes because there's some pretty spicy changes. First off, is the updated hero ability descriptions. And so essentially it seems like they kind of clean up the ability descriptions. It seems to be more color coded, so it means that it's not just going to be the red and the purple for physical magical power. It seems like there's going to be even more colors. So there probably colors for CC or color coded for maximum HP, right? So have to wait. We don't know what that exactly looks like at the moment, but that's something we have to just kind of see on Tuesday when we get our hands on the game and be able to like really see how all this kind of got changed right here. Yeah, it seems like attack speed, critical strike chance, damage not shown as basic attack. So yeah, so we just have to see how this is all laid out. Balance changes. I don't think there's anything too significant. Counts got changed as well. She gets less life steal per stack, but she gets more percent healing on his ultimate. And it looks like increase on the E gadget. Just a lot of this is just more fine-tuning stuff. There's nothing too that kind of sticks out to me besides Greystone, because Greystone's the one that seems like they got the most love in this patch. Well, like it seems like a lot of the thing is he's kind of like struggling the off lane because of his base stats, so they kind of up it. It's kind of amp it up, so like base health, gain 25 bonus HP, deflect cooldown has more decrease per level, make rate damage got increase, and the cooldown decrease on that as well, and solve the gates seem like increase. So like seems like Greystone has a lot more love in the early game, so his early game should look like to be a little bit better from the looks of it. So he does better against more aggressive matchups like the Fame Mouth, the Grux, the Crunch, etc. Also, not too much of some adjustments right here. Predecessor, knockup duration is actually lower. It's only 0.15 seconds lower, but that's quite a big deal to take note of. Damage is increased initially on her ultimate, and enemy missing damage. So it's sort of a nerf, I guess. Okay, so it seems like there's more upfront damage, but less scaling damage. Interesting. Alright, not bash, so I think there's actually quite a bit of changes. I think the big thing is his healing is a little bit too potent, so the shifting some of his damage and healing around. So rhythm decrease, his E should be decreased. Not really. Pieces with weight, base damage. So you get more base damage on the stun, 50 to 75% is pretty big deal actually. And this is actually pretty good. So it seems like they took away some of his healing profile, but they made his base damage on his stun can all be hits more, so he can better reliably do more damage or maybe finish off people with his ability. So it's kind of cool. Weapon got seemed like got some nerfs for his base damage on his passive. Obliterate actually got some significant. So the base damage on it has been nerfed, but the scaling increases. So it's kind of like an adjustment, but it makes his skill not as impressive early on at the very least. Several just minor adjustments. Fade is actually pretty big there because stun duration decreased from 1.46 to 1 second. That's actually pretty noticeable actually. So that probably gives you that more room to where you can probably blink out immediately or turn on the fade. So that's actually a pretty substantial nerf on the stun duration, but it seems like they compensate by the increased damage on the ultimate is actually increased. So 10% more scaling and 50% more base damage. Interesting. I'm just waiting to see how this plays out, because this technically means that Faye has more burst damage, but you stun for less and maybe you can get out of it faster, so we just have to wait and see with that. Finally, some more adjustments on Trim Blast. He gets a little bit more, he says like bug fix, RMB damage increase, and decrease, yeah, so just my adjustment. I think the big highlights is the Faye, the Barricade, and the Greystone by the looks of it. But yeah, moving on to items really quickly. I'm not going to talk about the T2 items. Looks like it's obelisk gain adjusted once again. So base damage decrease, damage profile decrease, but scaling is increased. So it better fits the mage profile instead of just being like a tank profile. Alright, so now we're getting to the spicy part with the 3 assassin item rewards. First off is Deathstalker. Before it used to be kind of, so this is actually super huge, by the way. Let me pull up what Deathstalker did initially. Deathstalker right here, this item is extremely busted for the fact of how much damage you get from. You get physical penetration with it. When you do damage, you reduce the armor up to 24%, and then you do 25% bonus damage when you get successive corrode. So technically, 25, 24. That's like 49 bonus damage you're technically doing to someone. Maybe the math doesn't work out that way, but essentially you're decreasing the armor, but you're also increasing your damage dealt to them. That's insane, guys. And that's why the Trim Blast Deathstalker build has been so oppressive, because you just do so much damage and you stack this immediately, right? And it's not just Trim Blast that is abusing this iron. It's also like just any like ADC that Sparrow can boost his iron, Revenant actually boosts his iron very well too. So this is just unhealthy for the game on the hero that can really take advantage of the item, right? So because of this, they're actually reworking this item to be more attack speed oriented choice. And so now the new passive is going to be is that you still get the trading the armor component, but instead of the 25% damage you gain attack speed equals to 70% of your physical penetration. So this is actually a really spicy change, because essentially what this means is it's a better item to actually build on penetration builds on the ADCs, because the big thing when you do penetration builds, assassin builds on the ADC is you lose out on attack speed, right? Because at the end of the day, your ADC, most of your damage comes from your basic attacks, but it hurts when you don't have much attack speed in assassin build. But it seems like Deathstalker is going to be that gateway for pen builds for ADCs. Well, Deathstalker seems to be able to provide most, if not all, the attack speed you need because of this conversion doing. So this means you can go a full penetration build on the ADC, and allows you to pick up Deathstalker, same percent of your physical penetration you build will be converted to attack speed. So this is an item to really keep your eyes on, guys, because I think it's not only going to be great on ADCs for pen builds, but it can be maybe really good on assassin builds. So like think of Faye Mao, who does a lot of other attacks. This could actually maybe be really good item on him for the most part. So we have to just wait and see on that one. Dread is also getting reworked, so now it provides so many benefits as the same item. So the old Dread was essentially when you kill an enemy target, you restore 5% missing health, and you get 10% movement speed out of combat. So it's just an item that actually gives you a ton of valuable stats, and it's just a really good counter pick to magical offlanes. But it's just an item you can just sit on and you just reap the benefits really well. So it seems like the big thing they want to do with Dread is that, hey, this item does a little bit too much of everything too well. So let's kind of rework this to be more of an anti-magic option. So the new stats is 40 physical, So you actually lose that mana regen. That's the big thing with Dread is you get that mana regen for sustain. That seems like it's removed, right? So they removed that. Now it's just more like magical armor, penetration, physical power. But you get a very interesting passive in that is whenever you receive magical damage from aim, he will block 25% of all incoming magical damage over 3 seconds. You regenerate after we not see damage from heals for 20 seconds. And while Center Shield is available, gain 25 bonus physical power. So this is going to be a very spicy tech option because a lot of you have to shield up, you get 60% physical power. That's a pretty good stat stick. You get 30 magical armor, and it's just like, it's a very good anti-magical damage item because you guys love counts, right? You love when the count jumps on you, does a whole combo and deletes you, right? This seems to be an item that seems to like work really good to counter those high assassin magical damage. So like, imagine you want to engage on the counters. When you have this item, when you try to fight back, when you try to do a whole combo on you, you're gonna block 25% of that damage. And that's a pretty substantial like damage block. That can be the difference between you living and killing the counts or you dying. So this gives you a sense of the dive mages and dive as magical assassins while worrying about getting blown up immediately. So, but of course, this means that it's not going to be always a pickup option, and they really don't have that much magical power. Probably you can't pick up this item, but let's say they have a countless jungle and like a shimmy offline. Then it's like a very good tech option for assassins. Last rework item is going to be Nightfall, and it's going to be like a rework item because Nightfall was kind of a more niche item for a sustain option. Because this is only when you're dealing damage to isolated targets, right? Which is fine if you're split pushing, but as soon as you team fight, you lose this passive and makes this item feel really, really bad, right? The big thing is to want to push it to where it's something you can actually just use it a lot more consistently as a sustain option. So the big thing is now you get lifesteal on Nightfall, and when you build this to damage, you heal 5% damage dealt to enemy heroes, and while below 40% maximum health, increase healing increases to 10%. So this is a lot more reliable sustain option with this item, but also for the fact that it can be pretty nasty in certain builds because I think ADCs can use the item because you get the lifesteal at 8%. So if you're doing a pen build on ADC, that means you're doing a more ability focused build. So that means that you reap the benefits of lifesteal on this, but also whenever you do damage with abilities, you heal for 5%. So for ADCs, it seems to be pretty solid, but for assassins like Fame Mao, this may be a really, really solid sustain option for bringing them to have a lot of sustain, and it's pretty nasty. Like I'm thinking even Crunch does a lot of ability damage. Like maybe there's some way to make Nightfall work on Crunch. So instead of like so you can do like a Mutilator Nightfall. So you have a ton of sustain in Army Vamp. So this is something I'm going to probably play around with. Maybe I'll try this on Crunch to see how it works. But of course, I'm going to try all these assassin items on assassins as well. This one's just a quick shift. So all these other items are just more like number changes. The big highlights, I want to talk about all these 3 assassin item reworks right here. And of course, True Silver Blade it's actually a pretty good change right here, right there as well. And a lot of bug fixes right there. But yeah, really long video. I kind of geek out a lot longer than I thought I would, because I was kind of geeking out on Zarus, but also there's some really kind of spicy changes they did with some heroes. Also, the assassin item reworked right there. But I really appreciate you guys giving this a listen, and I hope I was really kind of give you guys a good breakdown of everything new to come and the implications of these changes, especially with Zarus, right? Now know his full kit. We always kind of theorycraft some builds, so hopefully that gives you guys a good idea of what to build on Zarus and how his kind of gameplay will look. But definitely keep an eye out for videos next week because, of course, the best way to showcase and hero and show you guys how to play the hero is to get some gameplay of him. So for now, this is just my kind of overview guide, kind of like a sneak peek on based on this info we have, what we can kind of start thinking about on how to play Zarus on Tuesday. But anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.